This Airtable video is going to be all about podcast management. So if you have a podcast or if you've been wanting to put out a podcast, I've created this Airtable process/system for the management of everything that relates to your podcast, including your marketing efforts. So go ahead and click on the link. It's going to be a template. It's going to be a copy of the exact system I've created. You can click copy base up in the corner, open it up in your own Airtable account, and then I'm going to walk you through the whole process. So just go ahead and download it, and then let's begin. All right, so I'm going to walk you through the back end of a podcast production Airtable that I created for a client. I removed a lot of the information, but you'll see there still is some. This is just to give you an idea of, how it would function in the real world. So once you copy this space over to your Airtable account, you can delete these lines. This is all just here to give you an idea. And this is real data. This is a real podcast that I helped a friend produce, and this is how it really, really functions. So I'm going to walk you through each tab. The first one that says podcast is the default view. I have two views here you can see. And again, a view is just a way to display the data. So whenever you have multiple views here, you can have a grid, a form, a calendar, a gallery, or Kanban. These are just different ways to display the data that's in this specific table. So this specific table, the podcast table, is all of the information for a podcast episode. So I'll walk you down the line. Right here, I have it grouped by solo or guest. And that is because I have this column here that says type. And I have solo and guest as options. This may be irrelevant to you. Maybe all of your episodes are guests. Maybe all of your episodes are solo. Maybe you have different forms of podcasts that you can add in different options. But this is so that I can then group by one field, group by type. So I have it grouped by type from first to last so that I can easily see where my solo episodes are and where the guest episodes are. And so that is one way that you can display your information easily. So it's easy to see, easy to look at. All right, going down the line, we have the publish date. This is useful whenever we want to create a calendar view. And we'll go over that in a little bit. But having a publish date attached to each episode right there. And then this column here is the status column. And this is really helpful if you work with a team of people. You have a different person maybe making your graphics. You have a different person maybe editing your audio. Or maybe it's just you. But this is a really good place to have an easy to see, easy to view list of what needs to be done next. So I have the options default in this table that you'll see: not yet recorded, editing audio, creating assets, publishing, and published. So this is a really good visual to keep you on track of what you need to do next with your episode to get it published. Next, I have a column of the episode number. This is helpful if you ever need to create a view where you list everything in order. It's also helpful if you're inputting information in the back end of, for example, Libsyn, because it's going to want to know what season and what episode number your podcast is. You'll notice on some of these columns, there'll be a little I. If you hover over the I, you can see I have more information. So that says episode number to let you know that that's what that is. And you can edit the description on any of these by clicking the arrow and hitting edit field description. So I do that because sometimes I don't want to put all this information right here because it would take up a ton of space. So I just put a simple word and then I put the information that you might need in the info right there. So next up is an attachment column. So this is a column where we can add an attachment, and you can do this from your computer. You can add something directly from Dropbox which I think is really nice, or Google Drive. And this right here is the SRT file. I use a resource called Trint.com to do transcriptions of episodes. And then once you've run your episode through, it creates an SRT file. There's other ways to create SRT files. Some people use YouTube, which I believe would be a free tool. But that is where the SRT file will go. This is the column for the MP3, so this would be your finished audio file. Again, this just makes it so that everything's in one place. Everything's in one spot. You're not running off to a Dropbox folder. You're not running, to an email to try to find something. Everything's all here in one space. Okay, and so next I have 2 check columns, and these are just so that we know it's been added into Libsyn. And again, Libsyn is the email platform, or is the podcast platform that I have used to upload podcasts. There are other ones, but this is the one that I have experience with. So this tells me that it has been added into Libsyn, and this tells me that it has been added to YouTube. These two columns right here aren't necessarily, necessary. For me, it was necessary because maybe I will upload 5 files in one day. And then I'm like, oh no, did I upload episode 5? I can't remember if that one was put in or not. So this tells me that yes, it was uploaded. This one tells me it was added to YouTube. And you can create as many of these little checklists as you want to customize to your needs. The next few columns are things that are helpful for the back end of publishing podcast on the platform, as well as creating your blog content. So I have topics and themes, and topics and themes would be things that were discussed in that episode. I have a summary. So this is a summary that's written about the episode, which you will need to add, your episode to Apple and etc. Over here, I have a column called quotes, and these are pulled from that Trint transcription, the transcription of the episode. I go through and I pull a few quotes that I think are nice, that I really like, because those can then later be turned into graphics. Show notes. This is a timestamp of the important parts of the podcast. This is helpful for YouTube videos as well. Whenever you add timestamps into YouTube, it will link the timestamp, and then if somebody clicks on it, it will go automatically to that part of the podcast in the video. It's very helpful. It's also helpful on show notes on your blog page. So if somebody wants to listen to your podcast, but they really just want to hear a certain part, they can pick and choose. Keywords. These are the keywords that are used on the podcast publishing platform. They can also be keywords that you zone in on for your SEO of your blog posts. There is a tool that I've included called SEMrush that you can use to optimize what your keywords might be. I have that listed in the resources page here. Next up, I have resources mentioned. So in your podcast, if you mention a resource, or you mention like a friend or a website, or you have an affiliate link for something, it's good to have a list here of what all of those things are, so that you can make sure to include them in the YouTube description, so you can make sure to include them in your blog post, just so that you make sure that you really utilize, all those links that you might have going out. So this next column is, you might see it looks a little different. That's because this symbol means that it is a link to another record. And these here are your other tables: social posts, email campaigns, blog posts, guest resources. So this column here is who was the guest on that episode. And that makes it so that I can easily click on their name, and as you can see, whenever I click on their name, this little arrow goes over to guests. That's to show you that this table here, this information, is actually coming directly from that guests table. And so here I took out a lot of this information, but here's where I'd put a photo of the guest, the date that the episode was going to be recorded, what their email address is, and any notes or information that I might need, the editor might need, the designer might need, etc. And then that creates a column here, and I'll go ahead and click on the guest tab so you can see. So this is what this looks like, and each one is linked to a specific episode, the episode that they were on. Next up, we have the podcast cover, boom, which I use Canva for all the templates. I create templates for every single graphic need that there is, and then that way anybody really can take over the graphic creation of your podcast at any point. It makes it very easy. Everything's very consistent. And I'll show you guys that in a little bit. But here's where we put the podcast cover. You're always going to want to create a square cover as well as a wide cover. This wide cover will be used for social media sharing. It will be used for a video, your YouTube video, or wherever you host your video will be used for the cover. And then the square is typically what is used on Apple, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. And so the next three are all, again, links to other tables. So this one is social media posts, which links to records here. This one here is blog posts, and that links to the blog post table. And this one here is email campaigns, and that obviously links to the email campaigns. So really this whole entire Airtable is not only where you're going to keep all of your information for all of your podcasts and content, but it's also going to be your hub for your marketing efforts. So if I go to social posts, I have 4 different views here in the template. I'm going to start with grid view. Grid view is what I default name just the basic view of everything. I don't have anything hidden in this view. This view just exists with everything. So you can see I have posts uploaded in the attachment. So these are, for example, this is from an episode where I pulled out that quote earlier in the content section. This is where that quote comes from. So I've already listened to the episode, I've already pulled quotes, and now it's really easy to go in and just create a graphic based off of the information that I have already pulled in this table. So here I have type. So, maybe you don't use certain social medias, but I have IG story, Facebook post, LinkedIn post, IG grid in here. These are the ones that this client uses. You might use different ones. You might need to add some different ones, but I have it as multiple select. So instead of single select, I have multiple select chosen so that you can pick multiple options. So maybe this post won't just go on your Instagram grid, but maybe it'll also be a Facebook post. Maybe it'll also be a LinkedIn post. So this is just to show what different social medias it's going to go out onto. This is the scheduled post date. This is the podcast that it's attached to. And this is the copy that is going to go in the post. So if I put this image on Instagram, this is going to be what I put down in the description of the post on Instagram. And again, this is just so that everything's in one place. You might then use a tool such as Planoly, which is the one that I actually use for your automatic posting of stuff. But this is so that everything is just in one central hub in one place. This here tells me if it's been posted or not. And this here is a link to the template on Canva. I deleted it here because it was client's link and I didn't want to have that available for download. But I included this because Canva is such a great tool for people to make quick graphics. And you can have no design experience or you can have a ton of design experience. It's just such a great tool for anyone to use, honestly. Now I'm going to show you a couple of the different views. So this calendar view here, this gives you a view of kind of when you're posting things, and you can easily drag and drop. you can drag and drop and it'll change the data in the post dated. But this here gives you just kind of a visual of how often you're posting, when you're posting. Maybe, oops, I need to post something on the 31st. Just kind of gives you a visual of when you're posting things. If you're using a planning tool such as Planoly, this might be irrelevant to you. It might not be something you really need to look at because you have another tool showing you when you're posting things out. But this is another option if you're not using a tool like that. This here shows all of the images and all of the posts that you have already put out. And the way that it knows that these are the ones you've already posted is because up here, where this little green highlighted one filter, I have it set so that where posted is the field, that's the checkbox field that we created, is checked. So if you've clicked it, that you've posted this out, it's going to vanish from your to be posted. And as you can see, it says all records are filtered from this view. That means that there's nothing to be posted. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you. I'll go back to here and we'll unclick one. So this post here hasn't been posted yet. And boom, there it shows up. So this way, and as you can see, the little purple square, that means gallery. Gallery is one of the view types, one of the view options, and it allows you to use an image, an attachment as the cover, so that you can easily kind of see images. So this is going to be you need to post these out view. And so those are the 4 views that I have for social media. It's kind of it's a free way to do some social media planning and management, and it can be easily integrated with another tool. Email campaigns, this is so that we can make sure that each episode is being attached to an email. So I have, with this client, we send out 1 email per week on Fridays, and they cover the podcast episodes that happened that week. So over here on the podcast view, you can see how it's linked to email campaigns. So I can easily add it from here, or I can add it from here. I then add the URL from the campaign here, just so that in the future, if I want to reference it, or if I want to maybe post it out on an Instagram story, or if I want to send it to somebody, I don't have to log into my email marketing provider. I can just go to this central hub and I can click on the link and it's right there. And that is the email blast that was sent out. Again, this is just so that everything is in one place. The next tab is blog posts, and this is linking to each of the posts on the blog that are associated with the podcast. So a lot of them are show notes, and a show note is just a blog page that has the summary of your podcast, the video embedded, the audio embedded, any downloads you might have that are attached to that blog, to that podcast episode, are all in the show notes pages. But you can also create additional content that relates to a podcast episode. So say you have a podcast episode about networking or relationships. You can create an entire blog post that is an offshoot of that main central idea to make more content. And then you can tie it to whatever episode it was based off of. This table here, I'm not going to get into too much on this video. This is an entire video just in and of itself, but this is an SEO checklist that I've actually created and used over and over again. And if you know anything about SEO, you might be able to kind of understand what all of this means. But it's really just a checklist. If you go down the line, it's to optimize your blog post for search engine optimization. And again, that will be a whole nother video in and of itself, but it is included in this download. Guests, we already went over this. This is just to keep track of everybody that is on the podcast, with any notes that you might need for the guest, their email address, etc. And then I included a final table, which is just a few different resources that I use. Canva, Planoly. Canva here is the graphic design, and I'm going to remove this from the template so you won't see it when you download it, but I just kind of want to show you how it works. So these are all of the templates that I have created for this client's podcast. A template for the wide thumbnail, for the square thumbnail. Here are some different layouts for social media posts. So whenever you, for example, click on the wide thumbnail template, it's going to show every single episode, every single thumbnail that has been created so far. And it's really great to have these templates set up because it's so easy to edit and use that you could really have anybody come in and take over your creation and assist you or help you. So if I'm making a new episode, I literally just go to this little button here that says copy. I click it and boom, everything is easy to edit, easy to change. Could pop in a picture in the background. Canva is such a great tool. I'm going to use a picture of my friend Amanda. Oh my gosh, I just took that photo of her the other day. She's beautiful. So yeah, you can then hit download, boom. And Canva, it does have some paid upgrade options, but I use it for free, and I've been using it for free for over a year with no need to upgrade. Whenever you download, just make sure that you click on the one that you want, and that's your image. So you can create all these templates. Again, those quotes that we pulled from the episode, those can then become social media posts. So you're really creating multiple pieces of content from an episode. So all those quotes are then turned into quote images. And the same thing, just copy, paste your new quote. Hopefully this is helpful for you if you already have a podcast or if you're wanting to launch a podcast. I know that anytime you want to launch a new creative endeavor, it can feel really overwhelming, but as long as we put processes and systems in place, it's really, really, really easy. So if this was helpful for you, or if you plan to implement it into your own podcast, I would love to check your podcast out. Go ahead and leave a link to your favorite episode below. And I would love to know what else you would like to see an Airtable video on. If there's anything that you think you could use a little bit more organization in your life, or if there's any other projects that you have that you really want to get a jump start on, let me know, and maybe I'll choose it and create a video next.